The air in the loft was cool, a stark contrast to the memories stabbing at my heart with every glance at the screen. Joy felt like a memory long since forgotten. Those smiling faces were taunting me, shimmering pixels hiding the heartache that lingered beneath the surface. Each photo was a dagger, a reminder of the happiness I'd been shut out from. My heart raced. Samantha's laughter echoed like a distant chime, inviting yet agonizingly out of reach. Was she truly setting the stage for a future that wasn't mine? I'd just stepped in after a draining tactical session in western Maine. Damp kicks on worn hardwood, I powered on my smart device, hardly expecting anything. When the notification pinged, I was jolted. Photos of my sister, twirling in an ivory bridal dress under twinkling string lights, paired with a groom I hadn't met yet. Kyle Jenkins. She said yes, I whispered, fingers hovering over the caption. There was a ring photo, a joyful group pic on a countryside estate. Samantha's smile lit up the screen, radiant like the sun breaking through clouds. And me? Absent from this milestone, the space beside her echoing with absence. A bitter laugh escaped, not surprised, just raw, like an old scar that still burned years later. Thumbing through the comments, I noticed my mother's stream of heart emojis, my father's reposted praise for joy and family. The same family that hadn't bothered to text or call, not even a simple heads up. Over a year since I last spoke to Samantha, since that birthday message she left unanswered. She was fading, like a dimming image I couldn't bear to delete. But this? This cut deeper. I set the device down, face down, willing the screen to disappear, and walked to the sink. I scrubbed my hands, washing away traces of the last 36 hours spent knee-deep in military gear. My reflection didn't lie. No makeup, hair in a tight braid, I looked more like a soldier than a sister. Just then, a knock on the door broke the silence. Soft, tentative, but heavy with unspoken tension. Would it be family, or just another reminder of the rift? I dried my palms on a towel and opened the door. A thin, white envelope lay on the floor. The courier was already walking away. I picked it up, feeling its weight. The paper was high quality, creamy, lined with silver, a stark contrast to my scattered thoughts. My heart ticked up, then dropped as I read the address. The Walsh family. Not Claire, not even Ms. Claire Walsh, just a collective lump, like a family title. Inside, the invite was beautifully embossed. Emily and Matt cordially invite you to their wedding celebration at Elms Estate, Catskills, New York. November 4th, 2023. No personal note, no RSVP, just a QR code, like I was an afterthought. I stared at it, feeling a rush of confusion. Had someone just added my name last minute? Then my tablet buzzed, a text from my mother. If you come, please wear beige or gray. Nothing loud. No greetings, no warmth, just a dress code warning, as if I were the unpredictable guest at someone else's celebration. I leaned against the kitchen island. The early sunlight filtered through the blinds, yet the silence felt heavier than ever. Outside, birds chirped, and somewhere below, a delivery truck groaned. But in here? It felt too still. I opened the fridge, took out the last bottle of elderflower tonic left over from a reconnaissance op, and poured a glass. The cold bitterness coated my tongue. It tasted like forgetting. Suddenly, my tablet buzzed again. It was a voice call. Tasha, my old friend from the academy, now working for a private intel firm in D.C. Her voice crackled with static. "You see it? The photos?" I said flatly. "Yeah, you okay?" I hesitated. She knew better than to push. "You're not going, right?" she pressed. I glanced at the envelope still lounging on the counter. "I don't know," I replied. "I think I have to." There was a pause, filled with unspoken weight. Then why? "Because they erased me," I said, and in that moment, the truth hit me harder than ever. I was not just a spectator. I was intertwined in their narrative. The specter of estrangement loomed, but so did a flicker of hope for re-establishment. Sunlight spilled through the kitchen window, warm and inviting, creating a dance of shadows on the worn wooden table. It was the spot where we used to gather, filled with laughter and the comforting scent of freshly baked bread. I can still hear Emily's radiant giggles echoing in my mind, moments before that first crack of tension struck, shattering our closeness. Back then, everything felt effortless. But now, that table stands empty, a painful reminder of the love we lost to estrangement. And now they're throwing a party without checking if I'm still alive. I hung up the call with a realization that cut deep. Later, I found myself on the edge of my bed, the invitation taunting me from my open duffel bag. My mother's voice echoed, cold and calculating. Don't come unless you're ready to behave like a guest, not a disruption. I exhaled slowly, the weight of the moment pressing on my chest. But something inside nudged me. I folded the invite with care, sliding it into my duffel. I didn't owe them anything, but maybe I owed myself this chance. The secure band on my wrist pulsed lightly, a reminder of the encrypted message waiting for me. If you still care about Emily, show up. Someone else already has. I hesitated, but a flicker of hope ignited. Arriving at Elm's estate was surreal. I left before dawn, my duffel secured in the back seat of a rental car with Maryland plates. The drive felt endless, through crimson trees and mist-laden ridges like something out of a postcard. I finally pulled into the gravel loop, my heart racing. The estate was exactly what my mother would choose, grand yet understated, washed in autumn gold. Ivy climbed the stone columns as staff greeted arriving guests with warm smiles that felt scripted. I stayed in the car for a moment, watching as women in tasteful cocktail dresses laughed beside sharply dressed men, name tags already pinned to their suits. Taking a deep breath, I entered through the side vestibule. The check-in table was under a glittering chandelier, two young women typing quickly on sleek iPads. A glossy sign overhead stated, Walsh Halpern Wedding. Welcome, guests. I approached with caution, my heart pounding. Name? One of them asked, glancing up. This was it, the moment I had been dreading and yearning for. The soft glow of summer twilight warmed Philly's streets, the air thick with the sweet scent of blooming lilacs. Samantha Lewis stood in her loft, staring out the window, remembering the laughter from family dinners that used to spill through the open kitchen, wrapping her in comfort. But now, that laughter felt like a distant echo. Back then, with paint-stained hands from their last art project, everything seemed effortless. Now, a chasm grew between her and them, a memory too painful to confront. Why did everything change? The whisper of the wind carried truths she wasn't prepared to face. The invitation to her sister's wedding mocked her from the table, its edges sharp with the tension of family estrangement. Just moments ago, her mother's voice cut through the air. Don't come unless you're ready to behave like a guest, not a disruption. Samantha exhaled slowly, the weight pressing her heart down. But a flicker of defiance ignited within her. She folded the invite and slid it into her duffel. It was time to reclaim a part of herself, even if it meant stepping into the warmth that once embraced her, now filled with strangers. Arriving at Elm's estate felt surreal. Before dawn, she set off, her heart racing as she navigated through a tapestry of crimson trees. The estate matched their family's image, grand yet introverted, washed in autumn gold, ivy crawling up stone columns like whispers from the past. Staff greeted guests with two perfect smiles, offering a stark contrast to her anxiety. She lingered in her car, watching the well-dressed crowd with a mix of anticipation and dread. With a deep breath, she entered through the side. Name. A woman behind the check-in table barely looked up. Something shifted when Samantha spoke. I'm the bride's sister. Recognition flickered in the woman's eyes, but it quickly gave way to embarrassment. "Please wait a moment." Before she could process it, a supervisor appeared. No questions, just a rehearsed smile and a gesture toward a distant wing. "This way, Miss Lewis." It felt like a dismissal. The ballroom buzzed with guests sipping champagne, the air alive with laughter, but for Samantha, it was a world apart. They passed the main seating area filled with framed family moments. None included her. They led her to a small cove marked overflow seating. A distant aunt she hadn't seen since age 12 was the only familiar face. Sitting near the exit offered her a strange safety, close enough to hear the music, but far enough to feel invisible. A staffer handed her a slim program and vanished. She sat there, adjusting her slate-gray jacket, feeling the silence press against her. Then there was her mother, Helen Walsh. 15 minutes later, she entered, flanked by 2 women from her bridge club, hair twisted into a perfect French knot, draped in pearls, the epitome of poised elegance. Helen looked straight through her. Before recognition softened her gaze, almost lukewarm. "Claire," she said, dutifully stepping over. "You came." "I did." "You look—" Her voice trailed off. "Well, thank you for dressing appropriately." No hug, just that unsettling scan, like she was assessing if Samantha's presence might stain the photographs. And in that moment, the reality sank in. This wedding, this family, it was all slipping further from her grasp than ever. The gathering continued, laughter echoing, but Samantha felt encased in a bubble of distance and longing. My father walked in next, deep in conversation with one of the groomsmen. When our eyes met, time froze. He halted mid-sentence, offered me a curt nod, and continued as if I were just an ornamental plant, no more significant than a piece of furniture. I diverted my gaze, scanning the crowd. Distant relatives glided through the ballroom, flutes of Prosecco in hand, laughter spilling over like the bubbly in their glasses. Occasionally, someone shot me a fleeting glance before diverting their eyes, none daring enough to breach the chasm of years and whispered family secrets. Then Emily emerged, 10 minutes late, in a whirlwind of ivory silk and delicate makeup. She shone like the cover of a bridal magazine. As she passed my row, flanked by her giggling bridesmaids, I could almost see the light around her. Her gaze brushed over me, but didn't pause. Not a hello, not a nod, nothing. It was as if I were air. I folded the program in my hands, tracing its edge. She floated toward the front rows, where the real family was nestled, gilded chairs under sparkling lights. Meanwhile, I was stuck in the overflow section, wedged against the emergency exit in a creaky seat that felt too small for my frame. It hit me hard, the chilling words my father once shared at a fundraiser: "Family isn't about feelings, it's about appearances." He'd never meant them for me, but perhaps he never truly meant them at all. Suddenly, applause erupted as the officiant stepped up to the platform. I managed 2 half-hearted claps before my hands fell, cold and empty, back on my lap. The music swelled, wrapping around the crowd like a warm hug. They leaned in, but I stayed rooted. My gaze slid to the roses, trying to find something familiar in their vibrant color. It was then that a figure caught my attention, a man in a muted gray suit, resting one elbow on his knee. His demeanor was unnerving. He wasn't clapping, nor was he smiling. Our eyes locked for just a heartbeat. In that flash, I saw something break, a flicker of recognition, like he'd seen a ghost or maybe stumbled upon a secret he wasn't meant to know. And then, just as quickly, he blended back into the crowd. The enemy doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes they serve hors d'oeuvres. The laughter faded, replaced by a suffocating silence that enveloped me like the fog rolling in from the bay. My heart raced as I locked eyes with Samantha across the room, her radiant smile now shadowed by something deeper, something vulnerable. Kyle, standing beside her, shifted uncomfortably, glancing my way as if sensing the tension in the air. What revelation lay just beneath the surface of this facade? As the lights flickered ominously, a thought pierced through. Was this event meant to celebrate union or merely mask the fractures beneath? A waiter glided past, balancing a tray of rosemary crackers swirled with soft cheese and crisp pear slices. His movements were measured, as if choreographed for a play no one else could see. The black uniform and polished shoes blended in, but his left cuff had a faint crease, a subtle sign of something amiss. The name on his badge didn't match any of the staff I'd overheard at check-in. Most people wouldn't have noticed, but I wasn't most people. The cocktail reception had barely started, but an unsettling hum buzzed under the surface. The laughter was too rehearsed, the floral centerpieces too symmetrical. Above us, the LED lights blinked twice, holding steady like a warning. The room was beautiful, with high ceilings, brass chandeliers, and velvet drapes revealing glowing maples outside. Yet something was off. The air carried the scent of nutmeg and burnt sugar, a seasonal charm layered over an unsettling tension. That's when I caught sight of him. Thomas Adler leaned against a tall marble column near the perimeter bar. His hair was a shade darker than I remembered, and he wore an impeccable suit, tie undone just enough to suggest nonchalance. He held a lowball glass of amber liquid, yet he didn't drink. Our eyes met for half a heartbeat before he turned away, and another server slipped between us. I followed him near the fireplace as he stopped beside the charcuterie board. Picking up a fig, he said without looking at me, "It's still you under the braid, right?" I didn't respond. He bit into the fig, chewing thoughtfully, and suddenly I was overwhelmed by cross signals. Backroom AV stacks had been tampered with. By who? Someone who knew the language. I spotted a dummy cable running audio through a proxy filter. The endpoints weren't local. A thrum stirred in my chest, not panic, but focus. I scanned the room for more clues. Who had installed it? Not yet, but I could feel the tension mounting, like the air before a storm, and I knew I needed to unravel the mystery before it consumed us all. He turned, finally meeting my eyes, and it felt like the ground shifted beneath us. "But you're going to." My fingers curled around the slim scanner in my clutch. I glided toward the portable mic stand next to the main stage, where a tall tech vendor in gray was lost in his sound levels. Moments later, a server slid up, handed him a USB stick, and vanished down the bustling kitchen corridor. I moved slowly, syncing my steps with the ebb and flow of the room. Conversations flowed, glasses clinked, and the quartet kicked off a new tune. The familiar melody of Debussy filled the air. No one was watching me. I reached the microphone and pressed my thumb to the side of my clutch. The flap slid open with a whisper. Inside, a matte black scanner no bigger than a lipstick tube shimmered. I aimed it at the back of the mic stand and tapped twice. A silent burst of light scanned the components. The device vibrated gently. Green flickers morphed into red. This wasn't hotel tech. A smirk tugged at my lips. This signal was dancing along frequencies I hadn't seen since the Cypress handoff. The encryption signature? A weak mimic of a DoD voice relay system. Someone wanted it to look legit, but remained blissfully untraceable. I slid the scanner back into my clutch, feeling that rush of adrenaline. Thomas stepped back into my space. "They're not transmitting. They're receiving. What's the message?" He displayed his phone, angled the screen toward me. The feed showed a looping sequence of coded symbols with a countdown timer shadowing it. "Message Q intercepted 10 minutes ago," he said, struggling to keep his tone neutral. The text shifted, revealing a clear directive. "Mr. wants confirmation before 1600 hours." 3 letters. "Mr., my heart skipped a beat. Not from fear, but from a haunting recollection." Marcus Reed. I hadn't thought of that name in 4 years. Not since Black Horizon. The day he walked out of a secure debriefing room while I was locked inside, stripped of everything and told to disappear for the good of the agency. Just the thought of him was enough to jolt me into focus. That jerk didn't just appear out of nowhere, he orchestrated chaos. If this was his operation, all the wedding flair was just a mask. In that moment, the laughter faded and the clinking glasses felt like a distant echo. I had to uncover the truth before it consumed us all. I scanned the room, and suddenly, every server felt like a potential spy. Every floral arrangement could be hiding a hidden sensor. Every guest might be masking their true identity. It struck me hard. This wasn't simply about Emily. I whispered under my breath, "It never was." Thomas stepped forward with an urgent energy. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Simple, unassuming, the kind you'd picture holding a lapel pin or cuff links. "Temporary authority reinstated," he said softly, pressing it into my hand. "Your call, Major General. Even silk can conceal treason." The bridal suite was shrouded in silence. Flickering candles cast a warm glow, filling the air with the rich scents of rosewood and vanilla. Somewhere behind the vanity, fabric rustled, but the quiet was nearly excruciating. Then I saw Emily, standing before the full-length mirror. She was half-turned, admiring herself in a gown that seemed to shimmer in the waning light. Layers of cream silk flowed around her like a gentle mist. The veil hung loosely, yet to be pinned in place. As I closed the door behind me, the soft click echoed softly. The sound hung like a trigger pulled. Our eyes locked in the mirror, and I watched surprise flicker across her features, only to fade into something more complicated. "You're not supposed to be in here," she said, turning to face me fully. "You weren't meant to be broadcasting secure intel through your dress," I shot back. Her reaction was immediate, shock melting into confusion, indignation, and then denial. But the most potent emotion, fear. It radiated from her like a cold gust. I stepped closer, pacing my movements. "Where is it?" She swallowed hard. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't," I replied flatly. "I've already traced the signal." She hesitated, a flicker of panic darting through her eyes. For a fleeting moment she transformed from a bride into a sister, a younger version of herself, curled up in bed, battling nightmares, finding solace next to me. "You think I'd do something like that on purpose?" "I think you've been played." Emily's voice dropped, thick with gravity. "Someone gave me this dress through the designer." And just like that, an unsettling realization dawned. The true conflict wasn't just Emily's journey toward building her new family. It was buried in the chilling secrets threading their way into every corner, threatening to unravel us all. The scent of roses began to feel suffocating, heavy with unspoken words. In the quiet, I sensed Matt lurking in the background, his guarded gaze a reminder that his support might come with a price, an unseen twist poised on the horizon. What lay beneath the surface of this beautiful day? Only time would reveal the truth, or tear us apart. Samantha stood before the mirror, the air thick with the scent of fresh lilies. Each inhale felt heavy yet refreshing. The ivory bridal dress flowed around her like a whisper from a distant past. Her smile was bright, a mask that held secrets just beneath the surface. I could almost hear the echoes of laughter and quiet fights from past family gatherings, the memories layered like the tulle of her gown. It was a beautiful prison, stitching together a hope for acceptance but also draping the weight of family estrangement all around her. This isn't just a dress, I thought, watching as her fingers trembled over the satin fabric. It was as if each stitch begged for love, yet the shadows of her family loomed nearby, silent reminders of the distance now between them. "Who arranged this?" I asked, breaking the tension. "It was just a gift," she replied, but her voice lacked conviction, the unease palpable in the space between us. "What do you mean, just a gift? From whom?" I demanded, stepping closer, And just like that, she deflated. It was some donor Matt's firm works with. It was part of a wedding sponsorship package. "Do you even know what that means?" I pressed. "I didn't think to question it," she murmured, avoiding my gaze. "Let me see the hem." "No," she shot back, her hands instinctively guarding her gown. "This is my wedding, Claire. I don't care what agency you think you're still working for." "I'm not here as an agent," I replied, urgency boiling beneath my calm exterior. "Exactly," she snapped. "You're not anything anymore." Her words stung, but this time I hesitated, letting silence stretch between us until her outrage fizzled. "There's something wrong with it, isn't there?" she whispered, fear threading through her voice. "Yes." I took a step back as she reluctantly lifted the dress's train, revealing layers of tulle. I knelt and brushed aside the delicate fabric, my fingers trembling as I discovered the hidden truth, a transmitter sewn into the lining like a sickly jewel glinting under candlelight. Emily sank onto the velvet ottoman, her head in her hands. "I didn't tell you because I thought you'd ruin everything," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, Emily, I'm here to fix it." I held the tiny device up, its pulse a reminder of the stakes involved. As the music swelled with anticipation and the double doors swung open, I remained seated in the back. The cold pew pressed against my spine, but all I could see was the flickering candlelight dancing across polished marble, a prelude to revelations yet to come. What lay beneath this beautiful day? Only time would tell, as shadows danced and secrets threatened to unravel the lives we thought we knew. Guests leaned in, their eyes bright with anticipation, smartphones discreetly hidden behind floral programs, the kind of wedding designed to grace glossy magazines, dripping with elegance and envy. Emily entered, a symphony of string instruments swelling in the air, her arm looped through my father's. Her gown flowed behind her, a trail of silk, radiant and unstained, freed from the threat it once held. She didn't cast a glance my way, nor did he. Helen stood, her face painted with restrained triumph. They moved on, and I remained rooted. From my spot near the aisle, I watched it all unfold. The taut jawlines, expressions swollen with pride, champagne flutes raised in subtle anticipation, an intricate charade. And nestled among the second row of the VIP section, there he was, Marcus Reed. I hadn't seen him in 4 long years. His hair, now cropped short and flecked with gray, relaxed posture betraying a hunter's alertness. He didn't look my way. No need. He knew I'd spotted him. The officiant stepped to the podium, voice smooth and practiced. "Before we begin this union, let's take a moment for those who've served." The air tensed. "Any veterans, please stand now." A beat of silence hung heavy. Then, from 3 rows ahead, a solitary figure rose. Thomas. His suit was crisp, tie loosened just enough to suggest he was still a soldier at heart. When he turned, our eyes locked, and the hum of the room shifted. Murmurs stilled. The music faded. An invisible current ran through the air, taut and electric. He raised his hand, fingers resting at his brow in a full military salute. "Major General Claire Walsh, ma'am." Every breath halted, not from shock, but from the sheer weight of it. Silence echoed louder than any cheer. Heads turned, phones slipped from hands, gasps fluttered through the crowd. The officiant blinked, momentarily frozen mid-sentence. What lay beneath this gilded day? That question shadowed us, secrets thrumming in the air like the unplayed notes of a haunting melody. Time would reveal all, but the tension hung thick, dancing just out of reach. Cameras were locked on me, like predators waiting for the perfect moment. But instead of fear, I felt steel. My mom's face morphed, not in confusion, but recognition. Like a drawer deep in her memory had finally creaked open. My dad looked as if someone had slapped him. And then Emily looked at me. Really looked, not past, not away. At me. I rose with purpose, not hesitating. The silence stretched like a taut wire as I stepped into the aisle. My kicks echoed, thunderous on the marble, each step a reminder of what had been. Reed's gaze locked onto mine, cold and calculating. "I won't back down," I said, as clear as glass. "It's just begun." They'd buried the truth, but not the scars. In the dimly lit private lounge behind the ceremony hall, walls adorned with sepia-toned portraits of strangers stared down at me. Stern men in top hats, women draped in lace with distant eyes. It felt soundproof, as if the chaos beyond could never reach me. Orchestral music played on, but I was lost in my own world. I sank into a leather wingback chair, staring at the velvet box Thomas had handed me earlier. It sat unopened on the table next to a glass of untouched champagne. The air carried the scent of antique wood and florals, but underneath, something metallic lingered. The sharp tang of old blood or the weight of faded memories. My fingers brushed the box lightly, twice for reassurance before I finally flipped it open. Inside lay the metal, real and solid, with crimson edges glinting against burnished silver, starburst lines radiating like a storm's aftermath. I had refused it once, in Syria, 2016. That sandstorm hit harder than anyone could anticipate. Visibility reduced to nothing. Static choked our comms as chaos unfolded, multiple friends trapped beneath twisted steel and shattered concrete. We weren't supposed to be there. Our intel showed it was clear. But it wasn't. Thomas took shrapnel to his leg. 2 others buried under rubble struggling to breathe as dust filled their lungs. I was 28, 3 months into field command, and the weight of responsibility bore down hard. The air was thick with tension, a blend of urgency and uncertainty. Reed's voice crackled through the ops van, charging every word with weight. Route evac east. We had intel of a second trap near the mosque entrance. Every second felt like an eternity. I couldn't just wait. "We're burning daylight and blood," I snapped, cutting the feed and taking charge. It took 12 excruciating minutes, 5 of which were spent dragging Thomas through the crater that had swallowed half the street, his blood staining my gloves as we barely made it out. Silence engulfed us for the next 48 hours. Reed's report blamed me for everything. "Reckless field improvisation," he called it. My commendation? Scrubbed. That intel I had fought for had vanished. I was given 2 choices: disappear quietly or face a tribunal. I signed the non-disclosure agreement, folding myself into a box of secrets. Meanwhile, Reed climbed the ranks, and I was left with nothing but deception. Fast forward 6 years, and here I was, staring at the real metal, the one they claimed was lost. It shimmered in the muted light, each glint a reminder of my failures. Thomas slipped in quietly, offering a phone as the black screen pulsed with lines of cascading code. My heart raced as I scanned the data, encrypted time logs, transmission destinations. And right there, a chilling discovery. Vanguard Backup Exescheduled Deletion 2200 EST Node Red House. Red House. The last bastion of hidden truths buried in red tape. Would I finally uncover it? Could I connect the dots and reclaim a family that felt lost even before I left? The stakes were rising, and the clock was ticking. I scrolled down the metadata, my heart hammering. The sender's clearance key ended in 3 digits I hadn't seen in years. Mr. 09. He wasn't just here for the wedding. This was his stage. He was orchestrating a total wipe of everything connected to Vanguard. Every file, every log, everything from Black Horizon to now could vanish. I shot to my feet, my vision narrowing, panic clawing at my throat. If he pulled this off tonight, every truth tied to our past would vanish into thin air. Adrenaline surged beneath my skin as I navigated toward the door. But then I heard a whisper from the hallway. "Lo, you're not the only ghost at this wedding. Not all toasts are harmless." The garden terrace behind the estate shimmered with twinkling string lights, casting an otherworldly glow. Soft jazz wove its way through the air, a silky cover for the unsuspecting guests. Tables had been pushed aside, drinks generously refilled. Nearby, a wedding planner fussed with her clipboard for the umpteenth time. I spotted Thomas by a trellis, nursing his drink like it held the answers. 3 steps behind him, my eyes locked on the ceremonial microphone at the head of the long outdoor table. A single red rose rested beside it. Just decoration, or something more sinister? Beautiful things can rarely be trusted. The mic had been shifted since the ceremony, positioned oddly close now, wired for something. The frequency scanner in my clutch hummed softly, its steady feedback like a heartbeat. Inside lay a hidden transmitter, camouflaged among standard wireless components. I switched the scanner to passive mode and braced myself. Emily stood beneath the arbor, her veil finally lifted. She raised her wine glass, her gaze shimmering with joy as her new husband grinned like a cat who'd caught the canary. "I just want to say," she began, her voice flowing through the mic with an ethereal clarity, "that love, real love, has a way of surprising you. It sneaks up when you least expect it." But the air thickened with unspoken tension. The laughter of the guests faded for a heartbeat. What had Emily just unleashed into the universe? Would her words echo truth or signal a twisted fate? The air buzzed with polite laughter and the clinking of crystal, a perfect backdrop for Emily's celebration. But then, a sharp, unexpected buzz broke through the laughter, a signal I hadn't intercepted in a decade. I leaned in, feeling the world around me fade, the festive atmosphere dissolving into something darker. The scanner by my side hummed ominously, revealing a compressed packet aimed directly at me. "Tell me that wasn't what I think it was," Thomas muttered, concern etched in his features. I reassured him. It was. Digging deeper, I watched the metadata swirl into focus, layer after layer unfurling like an ominous rose. Familiar code patterns emerged, ghostly traces from past operations that felt warped, as if someone had taken the original Vanguard records and tossed them into a blender. "It's rewriting history," I murmured, fingers trembling over the interface. I isolated a crucial directive. Officer CW, unauthorized engagement, failure to confirm secondary evacuation protocol. The implications were chilling. "They're framing you," Thomas said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. Panic clawed at me. "Where did it land?" I asked, heart pounding. He hesitated, tracing digital shadows. 3 proxies, final nodes, political, registered under the ARC initiative. That name lingered like a dark cloud. Grayson. The upbeat jazz shifted around us as I glanced at Emily. She laughed, a picture of happiness among the bridesmaids, her champagne glass nearly empty. But it felt rehearsed, orchestrated. She was a performer in her own life, her joy seemingly practiced like a speech delivered in a war zone. And then Emily turned toward me, her veil absent. No barriers now, just open fear and buried truths. The tension crackled, thick and palpable. Her blissful guise felt like a thin film stretched over a deeper fracture, one we all sensed but couldn't name. I could practically taste the rain scent in the air just before a storm. Suddenly, her phone pinged. That cheerful demeanor flickered, a candle struggling against the wind. An unidentified number flashed on the screen. A specter from her past? The weight of unspoken words hung heavy around us. In that moment, it became clear. The joyful celebration could unravel, exposing the fragility of family bonds right before our eyes. What had meant to be a joyful union now stood on the brink of unraveling, leaving Matt and me sharing a glance heavy with concern. Would Emily's engagement be the thread that pulled at an already frayed connection, or would we find a way to weave our lives back together amidst the chaos? The questions hung in the air as the music swelled, drawing us deeper into the story that was only just beginning to unfold. The dim light in the dressing room felt heavy as the ghostly scent of jasmine clung to the stale air. I could still hear Emily's laughter, the sound of bright, unfiltered joy we once shared while trying on bridal gowns as teens. Those echoes felt like flickering candle flames, illuminating a past overshadowed by shadows of our old family dynamics. My fingers brushed against a gown's itchy tulle, a reminder of the family expectations that have tied us in knots. "Why can't you just be happy for me?" Her voice rings in my ears, soft but laced with hurt. It runs deeper than that, though. No champagne, no cheers, just silence. Emily's voice cracked. "Why are you snooping around during my wedding?" In the dark, I felt tension coil, thick and stifling. The bridal dress, once a symbol of joy, now hung limply from the mannequin, a ghost of what should have been. I closed the door quietly, casting a shadow over the fading light. As I crouched closer, my gloves crackled against the silk, each stitch telling secrets I needed to unveil. A scalpel glinted in the half-light. With a careful slice along the inner lining, I uncovered a muslin packet tucked away, like a secret waiting to be revealed. Underneath the lace lay a cursed surprise, a NATO-grade data collection module silently feeding every little detail of Emily's life into the ether. Every step, every whispered vow, trapped in an endless loop. Quickly, I grabbed my decryptor, connecting the hidden packet. The green light blinked. The air crackled with tension. Each heartbeat sounded like a countdown echoing through the silence. Emily's eyes drilled into mine, confusion mingling with rage, tearing apart the fabric of our childhood bond. Outside, shadows twitched beneath the streetlight, casting flickering memories of laughter that felt miles away. Instead, they faded into the ghosts of our past. "What do you mean it's not about guilt?" Her voice wobbled, daring me to pull the mask off the truth. The weight of my silence pressed down like a heavy shroud. Could I really sever the last thread that connected us? This wasn't just any wedding dress, it was a battleground. They had embedded a live data collection module in the fabric, a weapon disguised as lace. Should I reveal this to Emily, or let the moment hang in the balance? I crouched low, clutching a scalpel in one hand, the decryptor in the other. Emily stood in the doorway, her hair a cascade of chaos, her makeup smeared like the remnants of joy painted over a canvas marred by doubt. The realization hit her as she spotted the ripped lining of her dress. "What are you doing?" "Finishing what someone else started," I said slowly, every word cloaked in gravity. "You're cutting up my wedding gown." Her disbelief morphed into fury. It was never just a gown. She stepped closer, desperation edging her voice. "You always ruin things. Just once, I want something for me." I held up the collected data packet, her eyes widening with horror. "This isn't about guilt," I insisted, my heart pounding, but as the truth unfolded before us, her anger faded, leaving behind only disbelief. "They used me," she whispered, collapsing onto the velvet bench. "I felt it," she admitted, a haunted look in her eyes. "I told Matt. Something felt wrong. He just laughed." "You were right," I said softly, realization sinking in as silence enveloped us. "So, what now?" she asked, vulnerability creeping through the cracks. A final line of code blinked on the decryptor, a live countdown. They were preparing another data transfer tonight. "Thomas, do you read?" I pressed my earpiece, my pulse racing. "Copy. Dot confirming it. Reed's working with Grayson." "The real data moves tonight," he replied. The wedding speech would be beautiful. The betrayal, even more crafted. The grand ballroom sparkled with candlelight, but the looming shadows hinted at a plot ready to unfold. Chandeliers glowed, bathing the room in soft gold, turning every smile into a polished mask. Applause rolled through like orchestrated thunder, champagne glasses clinking in eager agreement. The air buzzed with warmth, wine sweet and heavy, just enough to fluff away any suspicions lingering in the corners. Reed stood at the center, raising his glass like a magician. "I want to propose a toast," he said, his voice smooth as velvet. "Not just to the happy couple, though they deserved every shred of joy, but to the Walsh family, a name that means loyalty, honor." More applause. Helen dabbed at her eyes, overcome with sentiment. Arthur nodded, all patriarchal authority, but Emily sat with uncertainty, hands fidgeting. "And lastly," Reed continued, his gaze darting across the room, "to those who serve without recognition, the guardians in the shadows. May we someday deserve their silence." Powerful words hung in the air, cloaked in half-truths, a controlled storm masked by appreciation. But I was already on the move. Across the polished floor, Thomas gave me a nod, a flick of his wrist, a pulse from the remote tucked securely in his jacket. We had hijacked the AV feed 30 seconds before Reed took the stage. All I had to do was pull the trigger. I reached into my clutch, tapped the transmitter, and watched as the room darkened, gasps falling like leaves in a sudden wind. The slideshow of wedding photos flickered away, replaced by a stark screen of black and white code, the familiar stamp of betrayal looming large. Vanguard Backup.exe Origin Red House Signer MRC04 FGR. The silence swallowed every sound. Murmurs began to stir like ripples in a pond. Then, my voice crackled through the audio feed, pinching the air tight. "They're moving the real data tonight." Reed's glass slipped from his hand, shattering the illusion. Who did this? Someone broke the silence. Reed stepped toward the screen, feigning surprise. "This isn't part of the program." His performance was flawless, but I could feel the tension crack, ready to break apart. What I'd exposed wasn't just data. It was a family's facade, and it was all about to unravel. The scent of damp earth filled the air as Samantha stood in the dim light of the old basement. An ancient wooden beam creaked above her, the sound echoing like a distant memory. She could almost hear laughter that once danced through these walls, her family's warmth wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. But now, the cold stone pressed heavily against her heart. Each breath felt like a reminder of the chasm that had stretched between them. The darkness was familiar yet suffocating, a haunting echo of what had been, and what she longed to reclaim. As that weight settled, I thought about the time I'd spent trying to break into that same world. What happens when love collides with loyalty, I wondered, feeling the tension crackle in the air. Kyle, Samantha's fiancé, stood in the background, a mystery wrapped in charm, unsure how to fit into a family that barely acknowledged its own members. But his eyes told a different story, steadfast and ready to support Samantha's new beginning. Could he bridge this divide? The party buzzed with excitement, blending laughter with the constant undertow of strained connections, an open bar, the clinking of glasses, yet beneath the surface something was brewing. Reed raised his glass, his words sliding into the mix like a hidden note in a love song. "To the Walsh family," he proclaimed, oblivious to the electric current pulsing through the room. I could feel Samantha's uncertainty from across the space, her hands fidgeting, trapped in a moment both joyous and suffocating. Dinner's served. The announcement echoed, drawing everyone's thoughts away for a moment. But as the laughter washed over us, my heart pounded with unease. What was being covered up, and why did it feel like my own history was intertwined with theirs? I glanced at Thomas, knowing he shared my intensity as he nodded discreetly. We both felt it, a flicker of tension in the air that wouldn't stay hidden for long. I risked one last glance at Samantha before I slipped away. Time was short. I could hear the soft rustle of leaves outside, the patter of rain tapping against the windows. Nature reminded me that secrets can't stay buried forever. Sliding into the shadows, I moved swiftly toward the service door that led to the hidden stairwell. The metallic scent lingered in the air, combined with whispers of long-forgotten secrets. My gloves were snug against my skin. The grate near the boiler room slid open with a satisfying scrape, revealing the ventilation shaft I'd scouted earlier. With a deep breath, I reached into its narrow mouth, pulling out a sleek field laptop sealed in a weatherproof casing. It was cool to the touch, untouched. I flipped it open, booting into a secure offline OS. No Wi-Fi, no cloud, just pure focus. 1 heartbeat, 2. Then the screen flickered to life, illuminating the truths hidden away for too long. This was the moment, my link to everything that mattered, to history, to family. What stakes would unfold now? As Samantha stood at the edge of the ballroom, the vibrant colors of the decorations flickered in the dim light. Shadows danced over her anxious face, each flicker pulling her deeper into a whirlwind of emotions. Her heart raced, caught between the joy of an impending marriage and the heavy burden of estrangement from her family. Kyle's quiet figure loomed behind her, that mysterious aura a constant reminder of the secrets they both held. Laughter echoed around the room, yet everything fell out of focus as she caught sight of her family entering. Had they come to reconcile, or was it sabotage? Tension thickened the air, making every breath feel heavy. Silence washed over the crowd, every eye on Samantha, every heart pounding with unasked questions. What would happen next? Authentication required. Pressing my thumb to the side sensor, I felt a rush of adrenaline. Green light flashed. "Welcome back," Director CI exhaled, cracking my knuckles. All the files remained untouched. Unedited footage from chaotic missions, internal messages revealing Reed's manipulations, everything he'd hidden from the world. Tonight, I was unveiling truths, painting the ballroom with shadows of the past. I connected to the comm feed, using an encrypted line Thomas had rigged. A soft beep confirmed the projector was live, just a whisper among the echoes of laughter and clinking glasses. "Command, this is Moth," crackled the voice in my earpiece. My old cyber agent. After 3 years, her words felt like home. "I'm prepping upload," I replied, fingers flying over the keyboard. A low hum buzzed through the air, the calm before the storm. In moments, the room would stare in shocked silence at raw truths, rewritten history. Open port 12 and mirror node to projection loop. We had 1 minute to break the silence, 1 minute to expose the intricacies of betrayal hidden beneath the celebration. The progress bar crawled forward, tension building with each percentage. 8%, then 47%, pushing the limits of what anyone was prepared to see. As the ballroom stood entranced in a fabricated reality, I focused on the concealed chaos within those walls. Reed's hand was still raised, caught mid-gesture as the screen transitioned. Gone were the curated photos and sweet sentiments. In their place, a battlefield, the gray-blue night vision casting stark contrasts against the lively atmosphere around us. What revelations awaited as the truth started to unfold? I crouched in the shadows, smoke burning my lungs. Every shriek from a child made my heart race, muffled by the static crackling in my ear. I barked commands at my team, urgency battling the chaos around us. Memories of Emily's laughter flooded back. Those sunlit days felt like a lifetime ago, a world apart from this desperate scene. With the chopper's whir coming closer, the past and present collided, leaving me trapped between the family I fought for and the one I barely knew anymore. Above me, the screen flickered, a broken reflection of my own life, leaving me feeling paralyzed. Torn between 2 worlds. Screams. Radio static. My voice cutting through the noise like a lifeline. Team Alpha, move now, civilian priority. I pushed past the chaos, heart pounding. I could see them, kids huddling in corners, scared and waiting. And then, just as quickly, silence fell as the evac chopper hovered overhead. Guests in the ballroom began to turn, shock rippling through the crowd. Some gasped, others stood frozen, phones slipping from their hands. Emily was wide-eyed, fixed on the screen. Reed's face went pale, and for the first time, his mask of control cracked. I stepped into the ballroom like this was just another mission, navigating through a sea of shocked faces. The screen cast an eerie glow, showing night vision footage that painted a gruesome reality. The air thickened with disbelief. Polite smiles transformed into horrified stares. Reed stood in the center, his hand balled into a fist as though he could still control the situation. I pressed the mic. It was time for the truth to blaze through this comforting illusion. On the screen, I saw images of my team moving through a war zone, ghost-like figures against ruins, and then a quiet urgency filled the room. I could hear Reed's orders: hold position, no evac until confirmation. A deafening pause followed, then my voice sliced through, calm and determined. Negative, civilian presence confirmed. Team Alpha, move now. The sounds of gunfire erupted, children crying and a mother weeping shattered the air. Then came the image that would haunt them. A boy, no older than 7, cradled in my arms as I ran through smoke and flames toward a fate Reed refused to acknowledge. Gasps swept like a wind through wheat fields, breaking the tension, spreading shock through the room. Emily stood at the edge, immobile. Mom clutched her mouth in disbelief. Dad, white-knuckled, gripped a chair as if it could anchor him in this surreal moment. Time stood still. The truth was out, and it couldn't be spun away anymore. Grayson had a calm that felt rehearsed, like a magician ready to pull a rabbit out of a hat. "This footage, everyone," he began, his tone neutral, "is deeply disturbing, but let's be clear. No one here can authenticate it." A wave of doubt rippled through the room. I wasn't about to blink. "You could, Senator, if you hadn't voted to seal those committee records last quarter," I shot back. His expression didn't shift, but the flush creeping up his neck said everything. "Anyone can doctor footage nowadays. Deep fakes, AI tricks," he retorted. "Are you really dismissing me?" I interrupted, voice steady yet charged. "You're dismissing every agent who never made it back, every child who nearly perished because of cowardice in high places." Before Grayson could respond, a voice broke through the tension, cool and clear. It belonged to Derek Shaw, a man I thought was lost. "Director Claire Walsh," Derek said, pointing as he stood, press badge barely visible against his tuxedo. "That's me, in the evac footage. I was part of Vanguard. I watched Claire override an order that would have killed everyone in that warehouse." Derek's words hung thick in the air. He was the lifeline that connected the dots. Reed's delays had almost cost them everything. The atmosphere shifted, whispers turning to shouts as phones sprang to life. The crowd surged, eyes glued to the screen where truth was surfacing like smoke rising from ashes. Panic etched itself across Reed's face as he rushed toward the projector, desperate yet frantic. The USB drive glowed ominously, still embedded, a digital heart beating with damning evidence. A figure moved faster. Thomas. He stepped in front of Reed, poised and steady as a coiled spring, a calm before the storm. Tension crackled, electricity humming in the air, and all questions hung silently between us. What truth would break through this rising tide? The lights flickered, casting long shadows, and then, as if on cue, Emily walked in. Her radiant smile from earlier vanished, replaced by a turmoil that cracked the very foundation of the room. She locked eyes with me, her expression a swirling mix of anger and desperation. In that charged silence, everything shifted. This wasn't just about family, it was about the reunion that dared to untangle our shared past. A past wrapped in secrets and betrayal. Whispers swirled around us, and suddenly the joyful air became thick with unspoken truths. What were we really hiding? As the waves of confrontation crashed down, I felt the weight of ghosts from my military days pressing in. Family estrangement, emotional scars. Could we heal, or were we destined to carry our battles forever? This was only the beginning. The real fight awaited, and it wouldn't be fought on a battlefield, but in the tangled ties of love and loyalty. The air was thick with tension, wrapping around everyone like a heavy blanket. Emily stood on the doorstep, her radiant smile wavering, then fading into something almost unrecognizable. Faint scents of rain lingered in the air, mingling with the rustle of leaves that whispered secrets between them. A tear slipped down her cheek, breaking the joyful facade she clung to. All eyes were glued to this moment. You could hear a pin drop as the unspoken words hung over them, heavy and loaded, until the air shattered. A hushed voice emerged from the shadows, striking like lightning. "Kyle isn't just your fiancé, Emily. He's your estranged brother." Reality shifted. The walls that once kept them apart trembled, ready to collapse under the weight of what this meant. How did a family become so fractured that love hid in plain sight? With every heartbeat, they felt the shockwave of this revelation ripple through the room. Could two broken souls reclaim their bond amidst the chaos? Moments stretched as they grappled with the implications. What had they sacrificed in pursuit of separate lives? In the midst of the family rift, Kyle, mysterious and supportive, embodied a new beginning for Emily. But at what cost? A bittersweet possibility shimmered on the horizon. Would this fractured family find a way to heal, or were they destined to wander side by side, forever apart? As the storm swirled around them, so did the memories of better times, laughter, shared meals, secrets told in the quieter hours of night. Would they let the shadows of the past consume them, or could they forge a new path together? A sudden realization filled the air. Healing wasn't just about mending what's broken, but about understanding the silence that had grown between them. As the last light of day flickered, casting golden hues against the cool brick pavers, hope dared to emerge from the ruins. Could they navigate through the pain and begin the journey toward something beautiful once again? The photographer hovered awkwardly near the floral arch, camera poised like a question waiting to be answered. She glanced between me and the rest of the family, a nervous energy crackling in the air. "Do you want just the immediate family?" she asked, voice trembling with uncertainty. Emily didn't even flinch. "She's in this one," she declared, her gaze piercing through the tension, locking onto mine. It wasn't a performance. Her voice rang with conviction. I held my jacket close, feeling the chill seep into my bones, adrenaline starting to fade away like winter's last breath. The world hadn't paused after Reed's arrest, but it spun on a different axis. I could sense it, the way people eyed me, not in confusion but as if they finally found the missing piece in their jigsaw. Helen stood a few feet away, her stance alarmingly stiff. Since the agents had led Reed away, words had eluded her. But now, she stepped forward, her hands reaching out almost instinctively, grazing the lapel of my jacket. "You're wrinkled," she murmured softly. I didn't respond, but her touch lingered, an unspoken apology woven into the fabric. Then Arthur approached, hesitance pooling in his eyes. He looked older under the dim evening light, smaller somehow. "I saw what you did," he said, gaze fixed just past my shoulder. "All this time, I didn't see you at all. I didn't offer absolution. I just nodded once." The photographer motioned us into position, a hesitant family slowly piecing themselves together. Thomas remained at a distance, arms folded, a hint of a smile ghosting across his face. Emily centered herself, bouquet cradled beneath her elbow, inviting me into her world. "Claire," she said, her voice firm as she extended a hand, not just as a polite gesture, but as a lifeline. I stepped forward, heart racing, and the camera clicked. In that instant, it wasn't grand or flowery. No trumpets heralding a grand reunion. Just 4 people standing side by side in a moment that hadn't been shared in years. We blinked into the lens, unsure who would emerge on the other side, but somehow I was there, centered, in focus. The kitchen was alive with a sweet nostalgia. The rich, buttery scent of cinnamon rolls mingled with coffee that whispered warmth. I could hear echoes of laughter, memories swirling like smoke in the air, wrapping around me like a cozy blanket. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a golden glow over everything, making it all shimmer with a forgotten magic. But then there was Emily, her face radiant yet distant. Charm and uncertainty flickered in her eyes like a candle struggling against the night. Her laughter, oh, it was a bittersweet melody, lifting me and breaking me at the same time. I could almost feel the chair I used to slide into silently creak beneath me, a phantom reminder of those cherished moments around the table. What happened to that love? The wind outside whispered secrets of change. Emily leaned in closer as the camera adjusted for another shot. "Thank you," she breathed, warmth flooding my ear, "for not letting me marry into a lie. I've stormed safe houses. This dinner scared me more." The kitchen looked eerily unchanged. The sunlight sliced across the marble island like time stood still. But in the air, there was a softness, something I hadn't felt in years, or maybe I'd never stayed long enough to feel it before. I found myself in my usual spot at the end of the table, the corner chair where I used to fade into the background as a teenager. Emily pulled out the chair for me, a silent invitation, her smile saying it all. Thomas sat beside me, his collar loose, hands wrapped tightly around his coffee mug as if it was the only thing keeping him grounded. He belonged here now too, bridging the gap between what was and what we hoped to become. Across from us, Helen poured coffee, her movements steady and unyielding, as if the chaos of the night before, the dismantling of a 2-decade cover-up, had never happened at all. She placed a mug before me, cream already added, just how I used to take it before war turned my taste to bitter black. Arthur buttered toast with deliberate care, awkward glances darting between us like unsaid words. "Nice weather, huh?" I offered, hoping to break that frail connection. "Yeah." We laughed it off, light and airy, the kind of laughter that fills empty spaces but doesn't need punchlines. Then came the creak of the front door, a sound that made my heart race. Tiny footsteps echoed against the hardwood floor, hinting at a playful energy in the air. A little girl, no older than 7, peeked around the kitchen corner, her timid smile lighting up the room. Her light hair was braided with a blue ribbon dancing down her shoulder. "Hi," she chirped. Emily stood tall beside her. "Claire, this is Jenna. She's Matt's niece, stayed with us last night." Jenna stepped forward, clutching something small in her tiny hand. It was a delicate white daisy pin, its fabric adorned with little pearls at its center. "My dad said, 'You're the reason he came home,'" Jenna said, taking a brave step toward me. My heart caught in my throat. I hesitated before reaching for the flower, allowing myself to really look at her. Here was a child, full of fearless kindness, untouched by the weight of silence. I took the daisy and pinned it to my jacket. "Then your dad's a good man," I replied, patting her hand gently. That simple act earned me a radiant smile before she darted back to the living room, her ribbon trailing behind like a comet in flight. Helen quietly placed a fresh cinnamon roll in front of me, her eyes glistening yet resolute, speaking volumes without uttering a word. I cradled my coffee mug with both hands, feeling the warmth seep into me. For the first time in years, no one questioned my place at this table. I simply existed, and that was enough. Thomas nudged my elbow softly, his voice low but probing. "Ever think of writing your story?" he asked. I glanced at him, feeling the weight of his words. "Because now it's yours again." History had nearly erased me, but here, in this room brimming with possibility, I remembered how to write in ink. The marble rotunda glowed under the late morning light, each beam flickering like whispers of memories long buried. No grand banners or orchestras filled the space, just a modest wooden podium with a flag at half-mast. In that crowd, civilians and soldiers alike filled half the folding chairs, their eyes reflecting stories they'd never voiced. I stood behind the podium, palms pressed flat against the wood, grounding myself. The microphone buzzed softly before falling silent, waiting for me to speak. Would today be the day that changed everything? With each passing second, the air thickened with anticipation, echoes of hope wrapping around my heart. The tension in the air was thick, a mix of anticipation and the faint scent of rain on pavement. Emily Lewis stood at the center, radiant yet distant, her laughter echoing like a ghost haunting the edges of our fragile reunion. I was a spectator to her joy, a joy that felt miles away, barely reaching me through the haze of estrangement that surrounded us. Kyle Jenkins, her fiancé, watched silently, a mystery locked in his expression, trying to weave himself into this intricate family web. As the flickering lights cast elongated shadows across the room, familiar faces morphed into something almost otherworldly, creating an unshakable chill that froze the moment in time. Do you hear that? The whispers nestled in the corners, thick with unsaid words, felt almost alive. I could sense the unspoken secret lurking just out of view. The question niggled at me. Would revealing my past bring us closer, or would it widen the chasm between us? My heart raced, and the echoes of my military past battled against the hopeful dreams we had of connection. Sweat beaded on my brow as I shifted from foot to foot. The floor beneath me felt unsteady. The ambiance grew heavier, the unrelenting pressure weighing on my chest. I caught Emily's glance, bright yet fleeting, and it happened. Time slowed. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown, leading us toward a revelation that could change everything. Then, in the stillness as Kyle stepped forward, it struck me. This moment hinged on a single choice. Should I finally share my truth? I looked into the faces of my family, their expressions a map of skepticism mixed with a desire for reconciliation. Did they want to know, or would they wish they hadn't asked? The question loomed larger than ever, a specter that refused to leave. Nothing felt certain. As I drew in a deep breath, the air crackled with unfulfilled potential and hesitant hope. I was teetering on the precipice of connection, ready to either bridge the gap or spiral back into silence. The chance for a new beginning sat just beyond reach, shimmering tantalizingly in the fading lights. I closed my eyes for just a heartbeat, the rush of memories flooding over me, the dreams, the fears, the family ties frayed but not broken. But would I be able to stitch the pieces back together? My voice broke the silence at last, trembling but resolute. It's time. The room leaned in closer, holding its breath, as the shadows danced in the dying light, awaiting my next words, poised on the edge of my past and the hope of my family's future. The air was thick with a mix of anticipation and nostalgia as I stepped down from the podium. I could feel the weight of history wrapping around me like an old blanket, comforting yet heavy. The rotunda loomed large, its walls lined with names that echoed through time. My name was inscribed there now, near the center, not bold but undeniable, whispered in honor rather than shouted in triumph. You know, sometimes we think silence can save lives, but the truth, that's what saves nations. I inhaled deeply, feeling the moment cement itself in my heart. I wasn't erased, not forgotten. I was written in ink, finally. Claire had been buried under redacted lines, a casualty of false narratives, but here she stood, radiant in the full light of day, her name etched in stone. Meanwhile, his was marked by arrest warrants and disgrace. Justice, I learned, doesn't scream, it murmurs, through every salute, every truth reclaimed. When the final note of that long-muted anthem finally played, The room didn't just hear it. They felt it. Every heart in that space stood to listen, unified in recognition. Did you ever find moments like this, where silence speaks louder than chaos? Feel this moment. Reflect on it, because we share this fight collectively. Some of you felt seen in Claire's journey. Others could sense there's more yet to uncover. Which side are you on? 1 for representation, or 2 for the lingering shadows?